Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Tea with Brittany Lee. I am so excited that you're all here today. We're going to be doing something super fun. This is my first panel webinar, which I'm very excited about. So today we are going to be recapping the 2016 VRMA Eastern Conference. There was a lot of exciting news that happened at the conference, and while I was not there, three of my lovely teammates, Mike Mueller, who's pictured in the center there, Connie Hutchins, and Michelle Smith were all there. So they're here today to talk to us about what happened at the seminar, some useful little tidbits of things that we might want to know. And we are actually going to kick it off with Mike, who is going to talk about the VRMA and what it is, just for some of you who may not know what the VRMA is and what it offers and that kind of stuff. So take it away, Mike.
Thank you, Brittany. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all having a great, wonderful Thursday morning. I'm in Richmond, Virginia as we speak, and it's raining, or it's going to be raining. So it's cloudy, but it's a great day today, and very excited to be here. We went to the meeting. The meeting this year was in Atlanta, and it was really a very good meeting for many different reasons. And what I'd like to talk a little bit about today is first introduce those that don't know much about VRMA, some of the advantages and reasons of what I believe being in VRMA. For all those that may not know, 49% of leisure travelers today are interested in staying in vacation homes in the next 2 years. And with that said, 24% have stayed in the last 2 years. The statistics are growing. More and more and more people are getting interested in being involved in vacation homes. And one of the things that we talk about VRMA, what is it that they do and how do they help us? They're the only advocacy group for the professional property manager. And if you look at their property, go back, Brittany, go back one, because I want to talk just a little bit about that mission statement. Can you back
Sorry
up?
about that. My mouse got
No
away
problem.
with me.
There you go. Through education, promotion, and what we hope is a unified voice. The idea is VRMA is attempting to bring together professional vacation property managers to strengthen the industry. And our industry really is under attack today, and it's under attack from different sides. You can look at what's going on with HomeAway and Expedia and Airbnb and how they are attacking or addressing this industry, and then the professional property manager and what we're attempting to do. Go ahead, Brittany. So this advocacy group that we're trying to, that is working for us in our industry, founded in 1985. They have around 800 members. They are the only group representing the needs of our industry. They've had record number of people in their seminars. Eastern this year is in Atlanta. Western was in Denver. The annual show this year is going to be in Arizona. And a couple of years ago, VRMA actually grew into Europe. More and more and more people are using vacation rentals. Therefore, we really do need somebody to advocate for what we're trying and attempting to accomplish. This year in VRMA, they hired a new management company, Smith Buckland. The purpose is for government advocacy. That is a tool. That's a tool that is an organization that is very focused on government regulations, intervention, and advocacy for this group. Go ahead, Brittany. And so, a couple of things that VRMA is looking at, or that's important to them. Education. What are you doing to learn about best business practices in your industry? What are you looking for? How are you looking at industry trends? If you don't have any kind of an organization or any kind of peer group that you're working with, then you don't really see what's going on. And so one of the things that you get to look at is education in VRMA. Some of the sessions that we had, I'll bring to you, just comment, lions and tigers and bears, how to compete with the big dogs, recruiting new homes and homeowners, best practices and pitfalls, vacation rental advocacy, latest information. Now, that was done by Matt Curtis, and I'm going to talk a little bit about him in a bit. But latest from the front lines, what's going on with that in the front lines? How to reduce your dependency on third-party distribution and regain your customers. That's all very, very important. How to financially manage your business. Diversity through driving new revenue through your reservation agent performance and incentives. These are all ways that you can, these were all sessions at the Atlanta show that could help you. Another thing that VRMA does for you is network with peers. How are other people, other vacation rental managers coping with the challenges that you're having? If you don't have anybody to talk to, anybody to communicate with, it's really hard to see what's going on and really hard to get the potential answers that other people have. How do you search out those best practices, those best business practices? What friends do you have that are not competitors in this industry? VRMA offers, I think there were probably 150 probably managers, companies that were at the Atlanta show. There's probably 400 different companies that come to the national show. These give you opportunities to interact with your peers, and it's very, very helpful. Networking with vendors. Let me give you a couple of vendors in our industry. I wonder if any of you know what Be Home 24/7 is, or Parakeet, or there's a company that we interact with, which is integrate with, and that's Point Central. Beyond Pricing, My Rate Manager, Customer Direct. HD Supply is a company that manages, that offers a lot of your maintenance and housekeeping supplies. And most companies will say that the discounts that they get from HD Supply will actually pay for their membership. How many of you know about all of the advantages of these companies? Then there are channel partners. Much of us know about Airbnb, but what do you really know outside of rumors? What do you really know about Airbnb or My Booking Pal, LeisureLink, Red Awning? Are you using any of these companies to enhance your business? If you would go to these shows, you would learn about these companies and understand what they have and see if any of them can help you. Travel insurance. What do you know about travel insurance? Are you using it? And if not, should you be? Real Voice is an enhanced vacation rental marketing company. There's a company called Transier. I think that's the name of it. They are actually providing opportunities to bid on vacation rental home pricing. That's very, very new, very, very different, and it's something that you might want to consider. Again, these are the things that you learn when you're in the VRMA, go to these meetings. Government advocacy, that is becoming more and more and more important. It's no longer us providing, if you remember, we had our whiteboards, and we used to, schedule our reservations on a whiteboard, and now you've got the technology, and with Airbnb and HomeAway, and now HomeAway being bought by Expedia, and all of the issues of government regulations within the local marketplace. What do you know about them, and what are you able to do about them? VRMA is very, very helpful. Staff training. What are you doing to help your staff? This is becoming something that becomes more and more important. How are you improving the skills of your current staff? A couple of topics that were in this meeting: can't read my writing. How to onboard new homes. What's the best way to bring new homes on? Creating a housekeeper and maintenance training program. What do you have and how do you do that? Anatomy of killer e-marketing campaigns. Maintaining a personal touch by using technology. What are you doing to help your staff learn about all of this? They come back, the staff that you have on there, they can all come back and train their other staff. So these are usually in great places, New Orleans, Vegas, San Diego, Arizona. It's a great opportunity to reward your staff for great work. So what I'd like to do is to sort of close and say, what is it that you can do from a standpoint of your business? The first thing I'd say is get involved with VRMA. It is, again, the only advocacy group that we have in our industry. Get involved, join committees, and see how you can see what other people are doing, but also lend your experience to what people are doing. Share information, and then bring your staff. And you can bring your staff for rewards, for peer sharing, and also for their education. So this is a great group. They have, it's not perfect. They probably represent some of the larger companies in our industry, but they don't represent everybody. But again, it's the only advocacy group for our industry, and as we grow, we need more and more. We just need more and more help, and they provide that help. That's it for me from that standpoint, Brittany. Thanks all.
Awesome. That's so perfect, Mike. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I do want to share that actually, I have been part of the VRMA for quite a while, and it's a lot of fun. I really love the shows, and they're a great way to just meet other people that are doing what you're doing. It can be so easy, especially with technology, to feel like you're isolated, and that you don't have anybody who knows what you're going through on a daily basis. And so it's really awesome to be able to have other people that know the exact challenges that you're facing. People that have been in the industry for 20, 30, 40 years. These people have such wisdom and advice to be able to give us. And so it's really helpful to be able to know exactly what they're doing to be successful in their own field of work. And one of the things that we do is that we are actually part of the communications committee for the VRMA, and so we determine what goes on the blog and what kind of information gets put up there. So that's something really awesome that, if any of our clients have things that they would love to see the VRMA address, we can definitely put those things in our meetings. We can say, hey, these are some things that our rental managers are really struggling with and would like to see advice or help on. And we have a mix of not only just vendors on that board, but also rental managers who have been in the business for a really long time. So the VRMA is a really great way to kind of get out of your box a little bit, get some training, get some education, but also make some friends and have some fun. And I've heard that the band is kind of awesome. I don't know. Have you heard that, Mike?
Band's going to be playing at the national show. So
Yeah.
we're very excited. Both Brittany and I are in the VRMA band. We call ourselves Permanent Vacation. And we've been doing this about 3 years now. And it's an awful lot of fun. Playing by peers, for peers, is just an incredible amount of fun.
Yeah, exactly. So if for nothing else, you should probably go to the show just to see me and Mike have a fun time while we're playing with the band. Okay, well, next up I have MX and housekeeping responsibilities and how they work together. And Michelle went to this session and she is going to talk about some of the key presenter takeaways for us. So take it away, Michelle.
All right, thank you, Brittany. So this was my first VRMA conference, and I learned a lot. I really thought the sessions that they offer were very informative, and just meeting other people in the industry and listening and talking to them was helpful. So one of the sessions that Brittany said I went to is the housekeeping and maintenance responsibilities and how they work together. And a couple of things I wanted to talk about that are here on the screen that the presenter mentioned was, one, taking pictures so that you can show your housekeepers what you expect the property to look like when they're done. And one of the things he had said is that way the property looks the same year to year as your guests come. The beds are made the same. It's not different every time they come to stay with you. Better communication between the housekeeping and the maintenance department. And I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. Some things you can do within the VRM system. Another thing was sending pictures of any damage or any issues that come up that need to go to the maintenance department, maybe help them in resolving the maintenance issues. One of the things he had mentioned is if you can get a picture of it, the maintenance person may know what to take with them on that trip to avoid multiple trips to the house. Another thing that was just interesting to me, years ago I worked in a vacation rental company, and I was not aware of this until this meeting I went to at the conference, was in some states they require that changing an air filter is done by an HVAC company or tech. And, it's just something I didn't even think of. It's a simple air filter change. So there were little things like that that were just informative. So next I want to talk about some things that clients may not be aware of that's available in the VRM system. The first is you can attach pictures, invoices to work orders. Okay, so once you have a work order created in the system, if you click on that little paper clip that's circled in red, it brings up that section below where you can choose a file. So you can select a picture to attach to the work order. You can actually attach multiple documents to the work order. And then another thing is the ability to email a vendor right from the VRM system. So the next little icon there is an envelope. If you click on that, as long as your vendor is set up with a active email address, you'll be able to email that work order, which will have that attachment within the work order, and that's what shows below. So I think that's a helpful tool these days, that you can email directly to your vendor rather than back when I did it, they used to have to come by and physically pick up the work order. So you can put information in there, letting the vendor know as much detail as you have regarding the issue.
Hey, Michelle?
Yes.
This is Mike. A question that with putting the pictures, they can do that, or your maintenance people can do that right in the field with their smartphones, can't they?
Yes, if they're logged into the VRM system, yes.
So it doesn't have to be in the office. They could actually in the field take their pictures, upload them to the work order, and then do whatever they want. But that's great documentation.
Yes, they can create the work order. Once the work order is created, they can attach the picture. So if you have a housekeeper out in the field, that was one of the things the presenter talked about on this session, is how convenient. Send the picture, create the work order, attach the picture, send it to the maintenance person. So while she's finishing her housekeeping duties, the maintenance person is aware of the issue that they found. So again, that was one of just the better communication between these two departments.
Okay. That's so awesome. I really love that you addressed the way that the VRM system can help with some of the things that you learned at the VRMA show. I think a lot of times we have so many features in VRM, and a lot of times connecting those dots and knowing exactly what the system can do can be really overwhelming, especially if you're not using that on a regular basis. So that's really awesome that you address that for everybody today. Michelle also went to another session, and it was called Vacation Rental Advocacy, the latest from the front line. So I'm going to have her talk about that for just a minute. And you'll notice that there's a link down here on the slides, and that will be in the recap blog that we post on virtualresortmanager.com/blog tomorrow. And so you can look at this article that she's going to address right here as well. So I just wanted to let everybody know, so you don't have to scroll down that bit.ly link unless you want to.
Thank you, Brittany. So this one was fairly new. It sounded interesting. So one thing I found out at this session, which I was not aware of, is regulation at the local and state level on short-term rentals. That there were some areas that were trying to ban rentals of secondary homes. And that's something I had not heard before, so that was a very interesting. And this is the presenter was Matthew Curtis that Mike Mueller had mentioned earlier, that works with the VRMA and the Advocacy for property managers. So I did some research and I found a blog that was done, and it's on the VRMA website, or the VRMA website, which Brittany links to here. So that I just wanted to make our clients aware of, because I felt that was something that could possibly affect you. I don't, depending on the area that you're in.
Yeah, and I just want to mention something about the blog. I read it yesterday, and it's really thorough, and it's got a lot of really great advice on how to start the conversation on vacation rental advocacy within your own community so that you can actually post some of the benefits to people, especially in tourist-heavy areas, places where, especially like you have a lot of vacationers year-round. It can really mess with commerce in the area, and so if they begin to put some of these regulations in place. So just kind of getting ahead of the conversation and how to address some of the most commonly posed concerns with a lot of these communities, and how to encourage them that it's not a bad thing to have seasonal commerce in your area and what it can do, and how you can advocate for that within your community. All right, so next
Brittany,
up, yeah.
Before we go, as a panel, that
Yeah.
means that we can share, right?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sort of joking. This is very much close to my heart. I've been in this industry for 11 years, and I've seen actually 12, and I've seen many changes. And people very often talk about, well, yeah, I hear about these government regulations, but they're not going to happen to me. It's someplace else. Well, let me share a couple of places. Wilmington, Delaware, where has a lot of vacation rentals, they are looking at regulating short-term rentals. Rehoboth Beach in Delaware, they're creating regulations that include an occupancy limit of 4 people plus 2 more people per room, that with local contracts, licensing, et cetera, et cetera. Venice, Florida, which has many vacation rentals, they're limiting short-term rentals to 3 stays of 30 days or less per year. And Ocean City, Maryland, they're considering limiting locations of short-term rentals. And this includes, they're going to update their zoning to define a little bit about Airbnb, et cetera. One of the reasons that this is happening, we've talked about VRBO for many, many years, and the fact that there are so few regulations. Let me sort of back up. We work so hard, or you work so hard as professional managers, to make sure that the right people are in the right rooms, in the right properties, in the right units. You don't have that control with Airbnb and VRBO. So you've got people coming into residential areas and renting a room, and you've got a lot of people who are upset that they've got people coming in and out, and that is a lot of what is causing some of these issues with regards to regulations. The other piece that I think is really important, and I'm going to state Anna Maria Island in Florida, they have, most of that island is vacation rentals. Probably 80% of the island is vacation rentals, which means 20% are those properties are the people who own it are living in them. Well, when it comes to rules and regulations, the only people that are able to control the rules and regulations are residents. So 20% of the people are able to control what happens on their island, and they hate having all of the traffic over and over and over again. And so Anna Maria Island is one place where you've got all of these vacation rentals, but it's being controlled by a very few minority, and it is really hurting those owners. So the idea is government regulations are coming to a city near you, whether you like it or not. It's going to be there. And VRMA is one place that you can support that will provide some advocacy for us for those rules and regulations. I just wanted to share that because it's becoming more and more critical in more and more places, and it's going to happen to wherever you are. It's going to happen there if you're not careful.
That's a really good point, Mike. And I also want to mention, just while we're talking, if you have any questions, feel free to stick those into the question feature and go to webinar. As we're on these topics, we will answer questions at the end, but you know, sometimes it's easier to put your question in while you're thinking about it. So if you do have questions about this, Mike Mueller is a great resource. He knows a lot of information about this industry, and he's been doing this for a long time. So feel free to ask any questions. We're here to help. So. All right, I think up on my list next I have reducing dependency on third-party booking sites, and Connie Hutchins went to this one, and so she's just going to talk to us about this a little bit. Everybody perk up, get ready to take some notes. Connie has some awesome statistics for you to write down and to information to get you going on your marketing.
Thanks, Brittany. And you know, you mentioned statistics, and I've been going to the VRMA trade shows for a while now, and I love to go to the seminars because I like to see what other people are doing out there, and I mostly go to the marketing ones, but you know, occasionally I'll go to something else as well. But I try to get to as many of the ones that have to do with marketing as I can, marketing your website and email marketing. And reducing dependency on third-party booking was the name of one of them that I went to, but one of the reasons I like to go is I like to see how we're doing as a company with the marketing services that we offer. You know, are we doing the right things? Are our statistics, you know, in the benchmarks, are they above, below, average? Those kinds of things. And I always learn something, and I also want to know, you know, is there something that we're not doing that we should be doing? So I just really get a lot out of the seminars all the time. And I went to a couple of different marketing ones this time, and they all had one main point that they were talking about. You know, Mike mentioned the one, how to compete with the big boys, and then the email marketing one, and all of them were about maintaining control of the customer relationship. All of these directory sites, these third-party booking sites, they want to control that relationship. And if they get control of the relationship, then your brand name ceases to be relevant. And you know, you just become a commodity. And so you need to gain and maintain control of that relationship. And the point that was made in the reducing dependency on third party was that you need to make your marketing and the customer experience memorable. And that is before, during, and after their stay. So before their stay, while they're dreaming and planning about their vacation, you want them to be remembering the vacation that they had with you last year. And when they're planning, you want to be the first company that they think about when they think about planning, so that they Google your website, you know, they Google your name. And then after the vacation, again, when they, you know, when they're back to work and they're back to the routine of everyday life, you want them to be remembering what a great time that they had. And so during all of those phases, before, during, and after, several ways that you can stay on their mind and top of mind is through your website. You want to get people to your website, and you want to keep them there once they're there. So market your website through social media posting. Pinterest and Facebook are both the two most awesome places to do that. Make sure your website is mobile friendly. You want to have good SEO, and SEO number one factor in SEO these days is having good fresh content, and blogging is the number one way to do that. With your blog, you want to become the expert in all things vacation related in your area. You want to be the expert on the things that they can do to have a great time. You want to be expert on the laws and regulation and rules that they need to follow. You need to be an expert on what they can do when they bring their pets, where they can take their pets for pet-friendly places, and all of those kinds of things. You want to be the number one expert in your area and have that content on your website. You want to create your own leads with email sign-up forms as well, and then once you have your leads, you want to do email marketing. And I want to spend a little bit of extra time on the email marketing area, because email marketing is one of the most underutilized marketing avenues that there is, and yet it has one of the highest rates of return. And your guest database, the guest database that you have in VRM, is a gold mine for you if you will use it. And there are several factors to email marketing, and I'm just going to give you a couple of the statistics and things that you can do. A lot of people are afraid to do email marketing too often. I've had people tell me that they didn't even want to do it monthly, and yet you should be sending out 2 emails per month, but at least 1 per month at a minimum. Industry statistics for the travel industry as a whole is about a little over 20% open rate with a 2.31 click-through rate. And I want to explain the click-through rate. That's the total clicks to your website versus how many emails you sent. Depending on the email program that you use, in our email marketing services, we use Constant Contact, and their click-through rate is based upon the number of people that actually opened it. So that 2.31 click-through rate is actually total emails sent and how many people click through. And so that's the industry standard. However, when you are marketing to your past guests, people that know you, we are getting 30 to 35% open rate with a 4 to 5% click-through rate. And we are almost always getting somewhere between 2 to 5 reservations with each email we send, depending on the size of the database. Now, if your database is mixed with other email contacts that you have acquired elsewhere, maybe through the chamber or through other avenues, then your open rates probably aren't going to be this good. But you are not going to bother your past guests with 2 emails a month. And so don't be afraid of that. Even if they don't open it, it doesn't really matter. If they're not unsubscribing from you, which we will have some unsubscribes, and don't worry about that either, but if they're not unsubscribing from you, then they want to hear from you. And when the time comes, they're going to remember you as a company, and your name is going to be the first one that they think of when they start planning their next vacation. Every time they don't open that email and they delete it and don't unsubscribe from it, it's just that they don't have time right then. They're not in one of those stages of planning yet, but when the time comes, they will. So with your past guest database that you can export from VRM, can be just a gold mine from you, and you can strive for those kind of open rates and even higher, sometimes depending on the time of year. VRM has a great email report that not a lot of of people know about. I'm actually the one that requested this report for email marketing when we started offering the email marketing services. And so you might not have it in your reporting services. If you don't and you're interested in it, just send in a help ticket and ask for the email marketing enhanced report. But if you do have it, you'll find it under reservation and report and marketing services. And this provides a much cleaner, much nicer report than if you just export your guest database from the members and guests report. And with this one, you can set some parameters on it. You can do guests that have had a reservation with you in the past, or you can do all guests, whether they made a reservation or not. People that ended up in your database for whatever reason, maybe they were imported from another system. There's a lot of ways that they could have got in there. But if you're doing guests that created a reservation that have stayed with you in the past, you can specify the stay dates, when they stayed with you, so that you can pull based upon stay dates, and you can search for those guests based upon their stay dates, their arrival date, or the date they reserved. And so the possibilities, the things that you can do with these, once you've exported them to Excel, you could export all of your guests to Excel, and then let's say you wanted to do something that was just for a weekend getaway. You wanted to fill up some weekends on the shoulder or something. You could go ahead and sort that list by zip code and get all of your guests that are within a 100 to 150 mile range that would be willing to drive down for a quick weekend getaway, and you could send out an email campaign targeted specifically to those guests. Or you could grab a list that was all people that stayed with you in the fall and email them with fall specials, or people that booked in the spring and email with them with, now is the time to book type messages. So there's a lot of things that you can do with this particular report and export that into Excel, and then import that into your mailing program. I do want to say with your email marketing, you do want to use a good email marketing program. Constant Contact and MailChimp are probably the two best known, and they're both very good. The reason that you want to use them is that you want to be able to track your statistics. You want to be able to see who opens. With Constant Contact, you can actually go right in and you can see who actually clicked through to your website. You can see which people actually clicked on the link, which link they clicked on, and things like that. So email marketing is an excellent way to market to your guests and to stay top of mind with them, regardless of what stage they're in, whether they're remembering their vacation or dreaming about the next one or planning and getting ready to book. And so that was my key takeaway, was that the email was, it's okay to do 2 times a month. And just remember, you want to maintain control of your customer relationship. That was the prominent theme throughout all of the marketing seminars that I attended, was the importance of maintaining that control of that relationship.
Hey, Connie?
Uh-huh.
This report generally costs $99, but for anybody who's at this meeting today, we will give it to you as a bonus. We'll give it to you for free.
Okay, I'm good with that. So send a help ticket and mention that you found this on Tea with Brittany Lee, and we'll go ahead and install this report for you at no charge.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Connie, for sharing that. As you all know, marketing is really near and dear to my heart because I am obviously a social media marketer at VRM, and so marketing is always a big draw for me at the VRMA conferences. And one thing I did want to mention is that, if you haven't been doing email marketing and you're looking to start that, it's not as hard as you think that it's going to be, and it's not as expensive as people think it's going to be. So don't let the fear of, getting started and all of that overwhelming feelings, don't let that, deter you from starting on marketing. Okay, so the next thing that I have for everybody today is Mike Mueller is going to come back on with us, and he is going to talk about retooling for survival. And this was a great session, and I'm really excited to hear everything that Mike has to share with us today. So take it away, Mike.
Thanks. George Volsky, if I'm not sure how many of you may know of him, but George Volsky has been an industry consultant for years and years and years. He's been with just about every software company. He's worked for HomeAway, he's worked for Escapia. He has been a consultant and provides an awful lot of information. And the key to this whole idea is that our market is changing. And if we're not aware of how this marketing is changing, then we are, again, we're going to be behind the eight ball. I remember when HomeAway first came into our industry, some people said that, some people were so scared and so concerned, and I have said to people that one of the best things that's happened to our industry is HomeAway. And one of the reasons is because they have given vision and they have given exposure to our industry that nobody's ever had. We don't have the money in our own individual budgets to give us the kind of marketing information that HomeAway can give us. Now, with that said, HomeAway has also been one of the worst things that's happened to us because of the exposure of the individual homeowner and all of that. So we look what George and Scott, and Scott is a vice president of a company in the Outer Banks in North Carolina, and he's been around for a very long time. So one of the things they talked about is trying to look at what they call the next generation VRMs, and how they're managing vacation rentals in very diverse geographic regions throughout the country. We learned a little bit about different business models, trends, how smaller companies, how do we compete with companies like, and I'm not sure if you know who VRMA is. VRMA is a company that has grown from zero to over, I think they've got about 3,500 properties, mainly in the West, but they are expanding. They have just grown incredibly fast. How do you deal, if you look at Property Plus and First Resort and Instant Software and Escapia, and they got bought by HomeAway, and then they got bought by Expedia. So how does Expedia now owning HomeAway, how is that going to affect our business? Wyndham, if you're familiar with Wyndham, you think of them as hotels, but the brands that they have are just so widespread, and one of their brands is vacation rentals, and they are going into different markets, and they may have come into your market. They've come in the Outer Banks, they've been down in Gulf Shores, they're up in the mountains in Tennessee, they are all over the place, and they come in and they offer, one of the things that they offer is their rewards program. There are many, many things that they are doing that is going to cause more competition as we grow and as our industry changes. There's another company called Vacation Rental Pros out of Central Florida, owned by a gentleman by the name of Steve Milo. Some of you may know him. Steve started out 8 years ago with 50 properties, and he now is throughout Florida, and he's actually just bought a company in Hilton Head. So this is part of our market today. This is part of our industry, and we have to prepare for it. One of the things I will say, probably the biggest loser this year at this convention was HomeAway. If you're all not aware, and I'll give you a little background, Airbnb has come into our industry, and they're offering, they've been offering rooms, and they charge the guest a 3 to 5% fee, I believe, and then they charge the owner a 3 to 5% fee. That's how they make their money. Well, HomeAway thought, well, why don't we do that? So HomeAway started charging a fee to the guest. So any reservation that is being made today through HomeAway, a guest is getting they're getting an invoice from HomeAway from anywhere from 3% to 9% of that reservation. You do not see that. It is a specific charge all by itself from HomeAway. It has nothing to do with you. You don't know anything about it other than if a reservation comes in from HomeAway, you need to know that those guests were charged 3 to 9% for that reservation. That has not gone over well in our industry. And so what vacation property managers are doing is they're saying, hey, come to our site, we will guarantee your lowest rate. There's a marketing tool. There's a competitive advantage that we now have over HomeAway. Come to our site, and you'll be able to book the property at a guaranteed lower price than what you would find with HomeAway. And the one more thing that I will say is, I remember people in Outer Banks said that they would never, ever, ever get on HomeAway. That was probably 3 years ago. Well, every one of them now is on HomeAway. But what I would comment to you is if there's a reservation that's made by HomeAway today, use that as a marketing expense. And next year, as Connie was saying, you start emailing to them. And now these guests become your guests and not HomeAway guests. And next year, you won't have to pay the fees to HomeAway. So there is a marketing expense that you could use with HomeAway. Make sure that next year, when you are getting that guest, make sure that guest comes through you. So again, this is an excellent session that talks about where our industry is going, and you're only going to find this stuff if you go to VRMA.
Awesome. Okay, so the next one that you had, I'm really excited about this. Yeah, but that's okay. We like hearing you. So you're going to go ahead and talk about the rate and season changes. And this one, I have to say, because I was at the Eastern conference and I went to a presentation by, I believe it was Beyond Pricing, and they talked about rate seasons and how some of their customers are setting up rate seasons. And it was actually shocking for me because I had never heard this information before. So for some of the rental managers, this may be really interesting information. So everybody perk your ears and let's give Mike our attention because he is going to tell us about some of the rates and seasons that are going on in our industry right now.
Either that or people are going to fall asleep because they're going to listen to my droning on. So I hope the information I'm providing is valuable. Our industry, again, if you look at the hotel industry, the whole hotel industry today, it is very easy for them to manage what we would call rates because they have a king-size bed and they have 100 rooms in a hotel that's got a king-size bed. They have another 100 rooms that might be two doubles or however they do that. The vacation rental industry is very, very far behind. I remember way back when, and some of you may be doing this, 3 or 4 seasons. You've got spring, summer, fall, and winter. Unfortunately, that doesn't help you in managing your vacation rental business. It's becoming more and more complex and comprehensive. People have gone from 3 to 4 seasons to adding shoulder seasons and then off seasons. I have seen people with weekly rates. They've got a rate every 52 weeks. And I have seen people with 365-day rates. Every single day is a different rate. Now, that's a little bit of an extreme. But the idea is this. How do you maximize the value of your properties? if you have a property next to you and and let's look at properties as opposed to condominiums. If you have a property next to you that's a 4-bedroom house and you have a 4-bedroom house, how do you compare those? If one of them has a hot tub and one of them doesn't, if one of them has a pool and another one doesn't, how do you compare the pricing and what those rates should be? There are companies out there, My Rate Manager and Beyond Pricing. What they do is they go into everybody's website. So if there are 10 companies in an area, they'll go to each of those companies and they'll scrape those sites. They'll scrape the pricing, scrape quotations forward and backward, because they're able to scrape those pricing for each property, and then they will take that information, they will computate and do a whole lot of different analysis, comparative analysis, and they will come back and say, well, this is what we think your property should price at. The problem is that for properties, that's very, very difficult to do because each of those properties are different. It's very hard to look at a 4-bedroom house on one side of the beach and a 4-bedroom house on another side of the beach and compare pricing with them. So if you've got a property that is vacant or it's not getting the rates or the pricing that you need, what do you do with that? Some people will lower rates. Maybe if your property is booking too early, maybe those prices are too low. I had a friend of mine who was a property manager came to me in February and said, Mike, I got great news. I'm so excited. My biggest house is booked for the summer. And I said to him, well, if the biggest house is booked for the summer in February, then your rates are too low. And he sort of looked at me and said, you know, Mike, that makes a lot of sense. So it's very, very hard to do with properties. It's much, much easier to do with condos. So rate scraping like this works much better. Companies like My Rate Manager and Beyond Pricing work much better with condominiums than they do with properties. We have in VRM what we call dynamic pricing. And one of the ways that you can use dynamic pricing, for example, if you are 3 weeks out and this property is 60% booked for 3 weeks coming, you may want to lower the price, and you can do that automatically in VRM. If you're 2 weeks out and it's 80%, maybe you want to raise the price. So that works for individual properties, but how do you do this comparative analysis? It's very, very difficult to do, but it's coming. And I want all of you to know that whether you like it or not, your competitors are looking at rate management, and it's not just season rates. It's very often weekly rates and comparing property to property. And at this particular point, very few of these companies are integrated with software. And a lot of these companies are very nervous because the last thing that you probably want is to have some software program change rates on you. That would be as scary as anything else. But just want to let you know that in our industry today, we are moving probably faster than you want, but this is coming. And if you're not prepared for it, you're going to be behind, and your competitors are going to use it and you're not. So again, I'm going to come back to VRMA. My Rate Manager and Beyond Pricing were at VRMA. You could have talked to those people and looked and got some information about how they work and what the advantages are. And then you also could have talked to your peers who are using those products and see how they're using them. So this is something that's coming, and I just want to, make you aware that it's going to be very, very, very important in our industry in the next couple of years.
Perfect. That is awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. Right now, we are going to move on to the question section of this webinar. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type those right into the question feature and go to webinar, and they will come straight to me, and I will ask them of our panelists, and we will get you an answer. Mike, I have one question for you. Can you let us know, one of the questions that came in was, how much is it to be a member of the VRMA?
I probably should know that, but I don't. I know that it is based on the amount of properties that you manage. I also know that in the past couple of years with the new management team, there's two different management teams. There's the board of directors, which are encompassed by our staff, people in the industry, property managers, and then there's the management company. And that management company is new this year. But the group that's running the board of directors, they've been around for probably 3 years and made some major changes in pricing. So the pricing has become much, much lower. And one thing I did miss, I think I missed, there's a company out there called HD Supply. And I don't know if I said this, but HD Supply has offered discounts for all of your equipment, your housekeeping and maintenance equipment. And they actually, many people have said that just through the discounts in HD Supply, they've been able to pay for over and over and over again, pay for their VRMA membership. So I'm sorry I don't know, but it's not as expensive as it used to be. And again, I think there's true value in that. But thanks for the question.
Awesome. Just one more question for you. With the VRMA events, are they included in membership, or do you have to pay an additional registration fee for the events that they hold?
Oh, they're got to pay for additional fees for going to the shows. So, yeah, I think the shows, they're like I think $150 or $200 or something like that per person. And then, of course, you've got to have hotels and transportation. So it's not inexpensive. But again, it's the value that you get for being involved, the value that you get in all of the events. And I'm a huge, huge proponent of rewarding your employees. Michelle went for the first time this year, and part of it, we brought her because of her knowledge. But we also, she has done such a great job with VRM. It was a reward, and so I hope she thought it was a reward and not a punishment. But it's a reward for your staff. So it's not inexpensive, but you look at the value that you and your staff get for it, and if the attendance wasn't growing year after year after year, I'd say that the value wasn't there, but obviously people are finding the value, and that's why VRM is growing.
Awesome. Okay, well, I think that was all the questions we had for today. Again, if you have more questions about VRMA and you would like to get in touch with Mike, you can always email him. Mike's, can you say your email so everybody that can email you any questions that they might have about it?
MMUELLER@virtualresortmanager.com.
Perfect. All right, so that leads us to the National VRMA Conference. It's in October. Mike already mentioned this. October 16th through 19th in Chandler, Arizona, and it is going to be really fun. Like Mike said, our VRM band will be there to play, and we'll be doing some fun stuff there. Also, we'll have a booth there, and we will be talking to people, so please make plans to come out, bring some of your staff, come meet us face to face. We do a lot of virtual business with our clients, but we love always talking to you guys face to face. And just getting to hear some of the things that you're using VRM for and how we can improve and make our services better. So there will be a link in the blog tomorrow, but there's also that little bit.ly link down there if you want to write that down. If you're interested in registering for the annual conference, then you can go ahead and get registered. And lastly, just make sure that next month that you join me, we are going to be having Michael Hill, and he's going to be talking about powerful coming this year to skyrocket productivity. And he's going to be going over some of the newer VRM features that are coming your way that you should be looking out for. And he's going to be talking, giving us a little bit of a status report. If you went to the very first Tea with Brittany Lee, then you'll remember Michael from there. So you can always just listen to that again on our recap on the blog, and you can go to Tea with Brittany Lee on Virtual Resort Manager, and you can look at all of the recaps there and get caught up if you haven't watched any of them. So thank you so much, everyone, today for coming out. Thank you, Connie, Michelle, and Mike, for giving us such a thorough recap of the VRMA Eastern Conference. It was a pleasure having all of you on, and I really appreciate you all, and I hope that you all have a great week. Happy sipping. Bye.
Thank you, Brittany. Bye.
Bye.